Hello, family, and welcome to the Good News Feed. I am always in my kitchen, so I'm going to feed you the good news. You know, here's some good news. I decided, since I talk about food so much, I need to start posting some of the recipes. So what have I worked on recently? I started a new Christmas tradition since we're in quarantine, and after Christmas is all said and done, you need dessert. So I started making homemade cinnamon buns. And as great and delicious as these cinnamon buns are, I felt like it was missing something. I felt like it was missing the essence of me being an adult. And I felt like it was missing something royal, like Majesty Bourbon. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome today's guest, Mr. Larue Livingston of Majesty Bourbon. Welcome to the Good News Feed.
Hey, how are you today?
I am well. So how about it, Majesty Bourbon? I feel like I should speak in another accent right now as I begin to discuss.
That would be Scotch when we're bourbon.
And now we know that Yolanda does not drink. Welcome to the Good News. What is good,
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Give us some good news.
Well, the good news is Majesty Bourbon is in about 150 locations in the Southeast.
Well, all right. That's a lot. How long has Majesty Bourbon been on the scene? Give us all the good details for those of you who don't know about Majesty Bourbon.
Well, we actually launched Majesty on February 17th of this year. And we've been going pretty strong since then, even through the pandemic. What we did find out is people still like to drink, even though they were cooped up in the house. So we've actually been able to, maintain and actually grow exponentially even during the pandemic. So it's been a really good time for, to be a spirits brand owner at this particular point.
Well, congratulations on that expansion. 150 locations, that's a lot. Considering February, the pandemic hit, well, we were aware of it in this country since about March, but that is awesome news. That's more than good news. That is magnificent news. It's majestic news, if you will. So Majesty Bourbon, what makes Majesty Bourbon the brand to sip?
Well, bourbon and people's bourbon palates are really, really subjective. So, there's hundreds of brands that you could actually try. I think what makes ours special is that we don't have some of the bite that traditional spirits have. This particular offering of Majesty Bourbon is 80 proof. So it's a little bit smoother to the taste than some of the higher proof bourbons that are out there. Mm-hmm. It has, strong hints of vanilla and citrus. And it's sweet to the taste, so that kind of sets us apart. Its drinkability is one of the things that has become a stalwart within the community of people that have actually already tried it, and that's some of the feedback that we're getting. Our goal at the outset was really to not really follow along in traditional footsteps of bourbon spirits makers, but we wanted to try to bring some of our people into the market, meaning the Black community.
So completely Black owned.
We are 100% self-funded and Black owned.
I love it.
If you look at the statistics, Black folks are mostly cognac drinkers. We love some Hennessy, and that's cool if that's what you like. That's fine. But if you look at the bourbon numbers, they're almost completely the opposite in terms of consumption by the Black community. So what we thought was that there was an opportunity for us to make an offering that would actually bring more of us into the bourbon market and to try to create a base there that would help us grow.
That's smart, and language is so important. So when I hear the pronouns we and us, it lets me know that you're not doing this by yourself, and you have some key players in the Majesty Kingdom.
Yes, we
do. I am unfamiliar with the spirit industry, but I am learning that it's more than just a drink, that there's a lot that goes into it. And you mentioned a hint of vanilla, which I love vanilla, and citrus. Again, I love citrus. And so I also heard you mention it doesn't have a bite. And for me, outside of the fact that I'm just not a drinker, whenever I did taste it, there was always something strong in my palate that would push me away. Right. And as a baker, the first thing I thought about with my icing is that if I needed to make an adult dessert, why not add bourbon? And I think that it would just give it an extra kick. And the fact that it's not so harsh, that's the word I would use in terms of that bite. I think it would absolutely work well with this cream cheese filling.
Yeah, it probably would. The actual sweetness, comes from corn. Bourbon is corn based, so that's where some of the actual sweetness comes from. The rest is kind of developed in the aging process, because to be a bourbon you have to be aged in new oak American barrel. So you get a lot of different notes that come out in the liquid in and of itself throughout the aging process. So the more it ages, the more pronounced that some of those notes will become, as you age it down the line. So the alcohol.
Well, educate us. Continue to educate us. Notes. What do you mean by notes?
Notes, taste, smells. That's they're tasting notes, and then they're aromatic notes. So things that you taste and you smell.
And having conversations with people who drink, I don't often hear the discussion about the vocabulary associated with drinking, which is very helpful, especially if you're trying to make a deal in business, to have that vocabulary there. So I hear notes, drinkability. Give us some more words associated with distinguished drinking.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of that is a lot of it is pretentious. I don't necessarily have a long list of words that would make you sound like a drinker. It's just those things are, when I talk about notes and and aroma and things like that, those types of things are transitive no matter what type of consumer industry that you're in. You're talking about baking and food and a lot of different things. So me being not a pretentious person, I don't want to say, okay, yeah, you have to sound like this in order to be a drinker. It just happens to be my personal vocabulary in terms of.
Well, I love it, and I'm learning. I actually saw a film about a young man who was interested in a career. I cannot remember the word, but it was a Korean wine tasting, and that's why I was bringing up the vocabulary, because he had to study all this language. Yeah. Not just wine, just
Right.
His palate had to be very, very, very sensitive, and he was able to just ring it off. That's why I brought it up, because I was so interested in. I'm like, oh, it's a whole world out here. There's like a career in consuming spirits. I'm taking that. That's my new word. I'm gonna take that.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot to learn in regards to the production of bourbon. Mm-hmm. But to be honest with you, what we like to do as a company is keep it as simple as possible for the people that are wanting to consume it, because your first impressions are what's really going to matter. So we try to focus in on, okay, if this tastes good to you, then that's going to spark a conversation.
I like it.
So with our production process and the things that we like to do with our particular brand, it's all focused on that first interaction. And that's why this particular offering is 80 proof. We don't want to push the people who, like yourself, who may not drink. We don't want to push those people away, because that's counterintuitive to what we're actually trying to do. But we had to make sure that the taste was satisfying enough for people that are novice drinkers, novice drinkers or experienced drinkers. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh wow, this has really good flavor, and they would be even more engaged to and possibly try more. So
like a date. So like a first date and wanting to have a second date and a third, and ultimately you're just married to the product.
Right.
Very good. Well, I've been certainly sharing the word about Majesty among my family and friends. And unfortunately, I live in the state of Maryland, and we're
Yeah.
not. You don't ship here, so I have to get a
We're coming up.
plug. So talk
We're
to.
coming. We're coming up. There's some. I don't want to say we have to circumnavigate some of the legislation, but I mean, there's certain things that you have to do to be able to ship into certain states, and there are certain reciprocity agreements that you have to have based on where you're from or where you're licensed. So we're looking to expand and be licensed in certain areas so we can partner with retailers that can actually ship into the state of Maryland.
Is it because it's alcohol, or is it just because of the laws? So
yeah, I mean it's both actually. Each state, each county, each city has its own laws that we have to try to navigate through to be sure that we're in compliance.
wow,
So that way,
it's big business.
It is. So I mean, it's one of those things where we would love to be able to to ship everywhere, but the legislation won't allow us to at this particular point. But we're coming to Maryland though. We're actually already in. We ship to DC. DC is a very, very big supporter of Majesty Bourbon in terms of its e-commerce at this particular time.
Shout out DC. That's where I was born.
DC,
so
City.
That's where my plug is. My plug is in DC.
Plugs in DC. All right,
I'm gonna use your address, but I'm coming to get my stuff so I can make these.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, hey, let your next move be your best move. Get it shipped to DC.
There it is. It's not far.
Right.
But I'm like, I am so excited. I'm on break. So I've been experimenting with different pastries, and that was the first thing I said, oh my gosh, if I infuse this with some bourbon, that would be amazing. So
you ship to Virginia too. So if you got a Virginia plug, we can.
I do, but she's still like an hour away. This one is about 25 minutes away. It's a little, it's more economical on my
right. There you go. I feel you. We appreciate you. We appreciate your efforts.
Absolutely. Thank you. So these 150 locations, any stores, any plans to be in stores?
Well, I mean, to be transparent about the locations, about 135 are in Georgia, where we're based. We have a few in Kentucky, a few retail locations in Kentucky.
That sounds.
And then we also have some in the state of Florida. We're on schedule to be in all of the Walmarts that sell liquor in Florida by February.
You have to be kidding me.
Not kidding at all. So
Walmart is okay. Walmart, do my brother right.
That's going to increase our location count. It's going to almost double it overnight once we land in those stores. Also,
that's amazing.
Thank you. But we'll also be in Texas around the same time, around in February 2021. Mm-hmm. We'll be in all of the Total Wine and More stores in the state of Texas. So that's going to include some of the major metropolitan areas there, like Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, even Austin, and I think San Antonio as well. So we'll be there. I think it's going to add about 26 locations in Texas as well. So
making moves.
Yep, big stuff coming up 2021.
Listen, 2020 set you up for the 2021 in spite of all the calamity that has been going on, right. And that is commendable. So you are my first beverage guest, okay. And I want to make sure that people see the bottle. I see you have a bottle behind you. Can you bring it on up for us a little bit?
It's Majesty Georgia Bourbon Whiskey. And then it gives you the basically the breakdown of the age 30 months in new oak American barrels, and then it tells you the size. This is a fifth, 750 milliliters, 80 proof, 40% alcohol by volume.
Okay, so when people say I need a fifth, that's what they're talking about. Listen, let me tell you. When I tell you, I am truly a novice. I just thought it was just something cool to say. So that's a real thing. Oh, yeah. You all forgive me.
Yeah, it's a 750 milliliter. 750 milliliters is 1/5 of what we call a gallon, basically. So you take 5 of those, you put them together. It's
that makes sense. See, look at you teaching math. Look at you teaching math today. Yes, that totally makes sense. I just thought it was vernacular that people use when they say I need a fifth. I'm like, a fifth of what? All right, moving on. Keep the movie rolling. So that was good information. I'm sure somebody else just caught that too. So I know I'm not the only one. So I have to make sure that I get in on my order with my plug in DC. Anything else you want to share with us about Majesty that is good for the people?
Well, just know that when you support Majesty, I mean, you're supporting, like I said, a 100% self-funded and Black-owned business. I have two other business partners. John Gillard, he's serving as the CEO of Posh Beverage Company, which is the company that we founded together. Manye Shell, he's the COO, and I'm vice president of the company. We founded it together in hopes of not only just making one spirit, but to actually have a whole portfolio of spirits and be kind of a tastemaker within the spirits industry. We have quite a few projects going on right now. We have a few more beverages that should hit the market early 2021. And we actually have a program called Concept to Shelf, which basically will allow people that want to get into the beverage industry, that have the capital to do so, but may not have the licensing to do so at this particular time. We're willing to teach them the spirits industry and, temporarily, license their beverage under Posh Beverage Company to be able to, give them the opportunity to get their feet wet within the bourbon industry, or vodka or gin or tequila, whatever the case may be, to try to bring more people. Share. Yeah. We just want to. That's part of our mantra. And I've said this, in several podcasts and video shows that I've done. It's that we're really intentional in the way that we do business, and one of our intentions was to bring more of us into the spirits industry, any way that we possibly could.
I love it.
So, it's not a situation where we want to handhold people,
right.
But, because this business is not one of those businesses where you can hold somebody's hand. It's like either you have it or you don't, because it's a daily grind. I mean, you're dealing with consumable goods, taste change, people's change, ideas changes, minds change in an instant. So you have to be 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. You have to start thinking about your next move even before you complete your first one. So we do have opportunity to work with people that are interested in doing it, that have the capital required to do so, and they may want to try their hand at running a spirits brand. So we go ahead.
I can't imagine this being one of those, I have a few $100s, let me go. But it sounds like there's not only a time investment, but it is a financial investment if you want it to be successful. And that's why I believe that you sharing that you're not doing this alone is key. Oftentimes people feel like they have to be a one-man band, and there are other resources where people have different talents to be able to make something flourish. And it sounds like Majesty does that. And you also fall under line what I call Operation Village Activation. You have the resources and you want to share them, but again, you have to be ready when the go button is on. Right.
And it's one of those things where it's not something that you can do by yourself. Well, I won't say that you can't do it by yourself, because you can do anything you put your mind to. If somebody else's hands can do it, your hands can do the same job. But I feel like that it's a you don't set yourself up for success if you don't surround yourself with people that have different skill sets. You can have like minds, but because my business partners, we think long term in the same type of vision. Yeah. But from day to day, we all have different ideas, and some of those ideas are good, some of them are not so good, some of them work, some of them don't. That's why it's important to have people around you that are not just that don't just go along with what you say, and have a different viewpoint and have different experience that they can bring to the table. So that way you can make decisions that are the best for your company, and it's not just a tunnel vision where you're looking and say, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, and that's fine, to have your eyes on the prize per se, but you have to have a lot of different perspectives in order to be able to make the best decision for your company. And I think that's why we've been successful, because we've tried a lot of different things. We've bumped our heads a lot of different times, lost some money, along the way. I mean, it's a lot of those things that that entrepreneurs experience, but
Right.
our losses would have been tenfold, and our failures would have been more catastrophic had we not had the type of brain trust that we have to be able to, give different perspectives and give ideas of how we're going to bounce back. So, it's not all peaches and cream and lollipops and roses, but
Right.
we'll take it. We'll take it right now.
I'm really glad that you said that. And my next question was going to be about your ability to push through when those attempts are not as successful. Oftentimes, people see a finished product, but not the work that goes behind it or the work that it takes leading up to that success. And they give up. They do. They give up. It's like, it didn't work, so I'm going to give up. What kept you and your partners going? What pushed you to say, Majesty Bourbon is happening? It's happening come hell or high water. What was that motivating factor to say, we got to do this?
Well, actually, it kind of started prior to us doing Majesty. We had a beer that was out. It was called Posh Premium Ale, which will actually be back on the market in 2021 as well. And we learned a lot in regards to having the right type of partners when it comes to manufacturing and distribution. And also some of the experience that we had with Majesty. I mean, we had a manufacturing partner that didn't necessarily have our best interest at heart in the beginning. So, we had to switch. And so that's, when you're, that was a headache, and that was a really trying time. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, more specifically, the things that keep you going, you have to try to, well, I'll just speak personally because my business partners aren't here. So I'll just speak personally.
Okay, fair enough.
Whenever you have a setback, you have to kind of gauge, it's like, where does it fall in on this scale? Is this a 2 on a scale of 10? Is it a 10 on 10? Mm-hmm. You have to kind of look at how it really affects you. Where does it stop? I mean, if you're having issues with your supply chain, I mean, that's a little bit more serious than having an issue with somebody that makes your labels. If you're having an issue with your production, that's way more serious than having an issue with how, where you're going to get your corks from or something like that. Okay. So you have to just kind of look at what is the ultimate impact on the business. And if it doesn't affect our relationship in how we can, supply our distributors with the product that they're out selling for us, then it's not really that big of an issue. But going back to what I was saying before, a lot of the failures that had taken place were experienced before we came up with the idea for Majesty. Because my other 2 business partners were in business with someone else before, and they had a cognac that was out on the market. And, for, reasons I don't necessarily really want to get into, I'll let them tell their story as far as that goes. But it didn't work out. And some of the things that happened with them really could have caused some serious, financial harm. But, and in some cases did. But it's like when you have that determination to say, okay, look, I have gone a pretty good ways down this road in this industry. I have a lot. And, when you realize what it takes to get back on, and then you meet other people like they met me to figure out, okay, this is how we can get things rolling. We can cut out a lot of the other stuff, and then we can keep it going. They maintain their drive. I came in, I gave a different perspective. I'm a planner. I know how to bring ideas to life. I'm into analytics and supply chain and things like that. That's what I got my master's in. So, it's easy for me to analyze things and spit out a plan, relatively quickly. And I think that, our skill sets just kind of matched, and that enabled us to, to bring Majesty out onto the market already with a set marketing plan. Also being able to take advantage of, our 3 separate spheres of influence, if you will, our networks, to be able to grow it organically and then support it with, with certain marketing campaigns and things like that. So it was in the making in 2018, but we just had to keep, watering that soil. And then when we were ready, we were like, okay, this is the time. And then COVID-19 came. It's like,
and the time it has been.
Yeah, surprise. So But the funny thing is like I said, we launched on February 17th, and places start closing down late March, April, maybe depending on where you were. But the one thing that kind of enabled us to grow was alcohol was considered, or I'll say liquor stores and ABC stores and the outlets were considered essential.
Yeah.
And so we were like, yeah, we're essential. So
and go.
And go, exactly. So we just kept going and going and going. We probably would be a lot farther along had things not been locked down, but it is c'est la vie, and it is what it is, and that's what we're dealing with. So we just decided we were going to go full steam ahead with as much of our plan as we could.
Yes.
Incorporated a little bit more digital marketing to try to reach people that we weren't able to reach, going hand to hand, face to face. Our e-commerce was not supposed to be until 2021.
But here you are.
But we had to speed that up, and we had to find a good partner for that. We're on Reserve Bar, who's our e-commerce partner. Been really, really wonderful to us. Been able to get us in states where we had absolutely no presence, and now people are really checking for us in those areas. So things just kind of came together. So it's like when you come up against a wall, you can either jump on it, to jump over it, you can roll through it, go around it, whatever the case may be. But with the pandemic thing, the e-commerce became a priority.
Right.
So we had some other products that were coming out this year, but we pushed those back so we could focus on getting the e-commerce vehicle set up. And we're going to be probably first of the year, we'll probably be in about 10 more states too. We're in 25 right now. We're looking to be in 35 by the end of January online. So
shout out the states where we can find you, those that you can remember off the top of your head. But we're certainly sending people to. I can read them for you real quick if you want me to. Just give me a second, and I will find that information for you. Is that on majesty.com?
It is on majesty.com. Or actually, it's drinkmajesty.com.
Drinkmajesty.com.
Right. So you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, DC, Florida, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maine, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Virginia, Washington State, West Virginia, and Wyoming.
Look at there. If you're in any of those states, the good news is Majesty can come to your home. Larue, exactly. Before we leave, everybody gets last words. So any last words for the people before we sign out?
Well, at this particular point, I really want to thank everybody that has supported Majesty Bourbon up to this particular point, whether it's been through tagging us in a post, tagging me or my business partners individually, or sharing the page, ordering anything online, walking into any store, either asking for it or purchasing it. All those things go a long way with building a new brand. I mean, we're not as established as some of the major players within the game who have hundreds of years of experience or hundreds of millions of dollars in their budget to be able to do whatever they want to do. So in short, I mean, we appreciate you rocking with us, because we're trying to go to places where people of our backgrounds don't normally go. We're just regular people just trying to do some some extraordinary stuff, and we appreciate every ounce of support that people have given us thus far, and we hope that we have delivered a product that people are falling in love with.
And I love everything about what Majesty stands for. It's not just a bourbon, but it's the bourbon company that gives back as well for other entrepreneurs who want to get into the spirits industry. Larue, thank you so much for joining us on the Good News feed. I am always in my kitchen, so I'm going to feed you the good news, and I need to feed myself the cinnamon bun. So Larue, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.